Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, Google, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
and Peter.
Episode 55, recorded on January 15th, 2020. The Cloud Pod bug affects millions. Hey, good evening, Jonathan and Peter.
Hey, Justin.
Hello.
How are your guys' weeks going?
Slow.
It's been a little slow and a little fast. I don't know how it's both, but it's like Schrodinger's cat of a week.
Oh, things are picking up for us. This week has been
good.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's definitely been a lot of interesting news coming up this week, too, that I'm sure is keeping you busy in the world of managed services and DevOps. So, well, let's jump into it because there's been some interesting stuff. So first of all, in general news, Amazon Web Services is seeking a temporary block of the Pentagon's $10 billion JEDI contract. This will be a court order to halt the work temporarily. This came in light of a court filing released on Monday and the plans to file a request for temporary restraining order formally on January 24th, and the decision is expected to be on February 11th. Of course, they have pointed out the numerous attacks of Jeff Bezos by Donald Trump, and that the constant changes in the DOJ have resulted in this contract being awarded unfairly to Azure. The text AWS filing this week specifies that it will ask the court to prevent the issuance of substantive work orders under the contract. The way these work orders end up being defined will likely be a key to shaping how far the order goes in limiting Microsoft. So we'll see what happens with that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, the more I think about this, the more I think it's not going to be completely reversed. I'm sure it's going to end up being more than a single vendor deal.
I suspect that it doesn't get resolved until after the election. That's my take.
Well, that's probably the goal, right? Just hold it up until the election at least, because then there may be more support.
I mean, depending on who wins the election, like Elizabeth Warren, I don't think it's going to be very nice to AWS. I don't know if she's going to win, but because I'm bad at politics. But I'd be curious to see who wins and what their stance on Amazon is and antitrust in general, and that'll definitely shape a lot of this relationship in the future, I think.
Yeah.
So if you are running Windows 10 on your enterprise desktops, or you're running Windows 2016, you should be patching. Because yesterday, Patch Tuesday, Microsoft and the NSA announced that they have identified a new dangerous vulnerability affecting hundreds of millions of computers and servers. The vulnerability was found in a decades-old Windows crypto component known as CryptoAPI. The component has a range of functions, but the one that is bad right now is the ability to allow a developer to digitally sign their software, proving the software is tamper-free. But this bug would allow attackers to spoof that legitimate software, potentially making it easier to run malicious software, like ransomware, on a vulnerable computer. NSA confirmed in the call reports that they had discovered the bug and turned it over to details to Microsoft. One of the interesting pieces of this was that they mentioned that their process includes that when they identify a vulnerability like this, they triage it and basically go through a decision-making process used to basically determine if they're going to retain the control of the flaw for offensive security ops or if it should be disclosed to the vendor. And this one apparently either was not worthy of offensive security ops or may have been used for several months before they turned it over to Microsoft. We have no idea and no way of knowing.
Several months?
Potentially, yes.
Decades old component.
Except it only affects Windows 10 and Windows 2016, which is why I was a little confused, because you would think that if this crypto API has been around for a very long time, you would think that it would be vulnerable in all versions of Windows. But in this case, they're saying it's just Windows 10 and Windows 2016. So I don't know if they made a change to the crypto API that introduced the bug or what. But that was a little weird to me too. It seemed like a disconnect.
Yeah.
I reckon the bug is so significant that the NSA couldn't afford to have a foreign nation also be able to exploit it. So they'd rather close it for everybody than risk anybody else having access to it.
If you can run any executable and have it basically ran as valid through this crypto API, it's a complete violation of all security pretenses of signing. And so if you can't sign legitimate software, that seems like a big problem.
Yeah, how many people really consumers actually check digital signatures and things?
Well, no consumer does, but the operating system by its own nature does. And so if it thinks this is a bad piece of software because it's not been digitally signed, or it's trying to spoof something that is valid and the signatures don't match, it doesn't allow that to run. It's part of the Windows protection, and even the Mac OS protection does that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess signed device drivers are probably a pretty significant target.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely see on hardware drivers where that might be concerning, because you could potentially, make a keyboard driver that basically captures every keystroke going into a computer, or the microphone control. So there's lots of risks to this. So I assume the NSA was concerned about that as well, potentially, if they hadn't used it for very many months before this, or years.
Maybe they already installed all the spyware in everyone's computers before the bug was closed.
Secretly, all these ransomware attacks are really the NSA, just helping their budget out.
I wouldn't be surprised if they, have feelers out and exploit these until their feelers start finding out that someone else has also discovered the bug, and that's when they turn it in.
I assume they disclosed this to Microsoft a little while ago, and this has been, because they released the patch and announced on the same day, so it's definitely not a 0-day exploit. So I don't know how long Microsoft's known about it either, as they've been going through patching it before it gets a big problem. But apparently, I saw this morning actually that there's already evidence of it being used in the wild. So it sounds like it's going to become a very hot topic for people, because that bumps the severity up quite a bit if it's actually being used and exploited widely in the field. Amazon Elastic Beanstalk has launched the public roadmap. This is, of course, on GitHub. This allows you to see the issues, or allows you to submit issues and vote on influence of development roadmap items for Beanstalk. And there's been a couple interesting items that I saw on the roadmap when I was just glancing through it. A whole lot of language support coming for Amazon Linux 2. Things like Ruby and .NET Core, etc., all coming. So you can move off of Amazon Linux to Amazon Linux 2. Major refresh of the Beanstalk console in the GUI. Support for Windows Server 2019 is coming, and of course the desire to release the Amazon Elastic Beanstalk CLI on GitHub to encourage external participation and faster development on the Elastic Beanstalk components. So that might be interesting as that gets announced as well sometime later in this year. That was imminent in the Kanban board they have. So if you are a big user of Elastic Beanstalk and you have some feature requests, you can go open up issues on the GitHub board.
I'm excited to see they're researching ARM support for Elastic Beanstalk.
I did see that. Yeah, that's interesting.
I like it.
So again, this is the fourth one of these. This joins container services, which is ECS, EKS, and Fargate, App Mesh, and CloudFormation. So if those are services you're using, you might have missed our previous announcements. They're talking about that, but they've been on the public roadmap now for about 6 to 9 months, depending on which one of those services we're talking about.
Yeah, and if you want to know what the upcoming roadmaps are going to be, then check out the AWS roadmap.
Yeah.
Sadly, it doesn't exist, but we joke about it on Twitter.
Well, and these are just the things that they are willing to publicly disclose that they're working on. They typically always seem to have features that were not on the public roadmap. So, if there's something for Beanstalk you've been told in the past is coming, it might still be coming. It's just not something they're willing to talk about publicly yet.
Such a great way to communicate this type of information, though. I love it. I wish more companies would adopt this.
So I hope we keep seeing more and more AWS services adopt it. I think it's really great, especially for some of these public CLIs and these development tools. It just makes sense that you'd want to make these more available and more capable for teams to contribute. So the UK Home Office has selected AWS for their £100 million public cloud services deal. This is an extension of their prior agreement for additional 4 years. There's a quote here from the department. The award of the public cloud hosting services contract to Amazon is a continuation of services already provided to the Home Office. The contract award provides significant savings for the department over a year-to-year term. Of course, there's no guarantee they will spend the full £100 million, but it can spend up to that amount. And Amazon had to say that government departments using AWS are not only enjoying cost savings of up to 60%, but also support a vast ecosystem of smaller companies across the UK that offer products and services that complement and help customers take full advantage of AWS. So I guess this is a consolation prize for Jedi, although it is basically a tenth of a percentage of the size of Jedi. It's still nice to see Amazon still winning some government business out there.
I'm guessing that most people don't know what the Home Office does in the UK.
I did not know this, and actually I had to go research it because I was like, what is the UK Home Office?
Right.
Is that like Office Depot? Or I didn't know what it was, so I had to go do that research. And then I also assumed that you would enlighten us. Indeed.
I suspect there's going to be a bunch of protests and all the same things we'll see in the UK as we've seen over here in the US as far as criticism of use of facial recognition and that kind of thing. But effectively, the Home Office is responsible for law and order in the country, the security of the nation, but not the military, and immigration. So effectively, it's kind of like the Department of Homeland Security for the UK.
I mean, they are a little distracted by a little something called Brexit right now, so maybe this will slip through.
I don't think they're distracted. I think they've all got their heads in the sand. La, 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 la. Wake me up when it's all done.
I think I like Department of Homeland Security more than I like Home Office. That's a little.
It's much more friendly, Sando. It's the Home Office.
Yeah.
Chaps.
It also, the Department of Homeland Security, I kind of have an idea what you're doing. Home Office, I'm feeling like this is how the British government people work from home.
They call it that because they don't want you to know what they're doing.
Exactly. It's security through obscurity.
Yeah, and I would just remind all the listeners that the UK has the most number of CCTV cameras of any developed nation.
Is that partially because of the London drive zone where they pay there are a lot of cameras on those roads to track people coming into the city and stuff?
I think it was mostly motivated by there's a lot of terrorism attacks related to the Irish Republican Army. In the 80s, 70s and 80s, and I think it was an extension of that. They sort of covered big city centres with CCTV cameras, and it's just grown and grown from there.
While you were talking, I just Googled UK Home Office protests. Apparently there was a protest sometime in July, but apparently it did not stop them from renewing the contract. So, hey, so Peter, I have some questions for you.
Ooh, yes.
First of all, do you use Amazon Web Services for business or personal use?
I use it exclusively for business use.
How many production workloads do you happen to use? Are you just
Greater
experimenting?
Greater than 10.
Greater than 10? Okay, good.
I filled out this form 1,000 times.
And do you think that Amazon might know where your office is and what your phone number is by chance and email address?
I do. I'm certain they have that information.
I believe that as well. And I do have to say that as a company that is so big on machine learning and data lakes and data analytics, the fact that they can't set a cookie to remember those settings has been a great bit of annoyance for me in the last, at least, really I've been focusing on it for the last 3 or 4 weeks, but it's been an annoyance for my entire career in Amazon. And so this next announcement may actually change that. Amazon Cloud CEO Andy Jassy has announced that they are shuffling around the marketing department as the head of marketing, Ariel Kelman, is now joining Oracle. I look forward to telling Oracle that I have no production workloads at Oracle OCI. And so they're apparently promoting Rachel Thornton, former head of Global Filed and partner marketing operations, to take over for Ariel, who is moving on to Oracle, which is a pretty interesting move. But yeah, there's also a couple other executive changes here. Matt Garman, who's one of the VPs of sales, is also taking on more of a chief operating officer-like role, as well as joined the S team in December. And there are a couple other interesting changes if you're curious about the org chart of Amazon, which we won't get into here because it's a little dull. But there's an article here you can click on and check out. But the marketing side, I'm hoping to see improvements.
It's just not one of those companies and services that you would expect to see a ton of advertising, at least.
So it's interesting. They've become the replacement for Barracuda in all the airports I've noticed. I see a lot of Amazon ads in airports about going to the Amazon cloud to accelerate your business and all those kind of things. Overall, marketing-wise, they have a pretty large YouTube presence of videos, interviews, and Twitter. They have Twitter set up as well. But yeah, they don't really do a lot of direct marketing, if you will, for AWS beyond the promotions and the things like the map programs and those kinds of things, which are marketing programs technically, but not necessarily marketing as we think of marketing.
Right.
I do hope that they can maybe unify all those forms and maybe also set on one from Amazon address for marketing emails, because I do really enjoy getting 190 some odd emails every time they decide to send out a marketing survey. Or let me know that an RDS certificate is expiring. It's really appreciated. That they one time it's Amazon marketing, and then the next time it's Amazon Europe sending me the email, and so now it misses my spam filter every time. So,
I'm pretty sure that's a deliberate choice.
I'm pretty sure it is, but it's an annoying choice, and so hopefully we see some changes there.
Yeah. If only you had a podcast to listen to that could give you all the important information instead of having to read it yourself.
You already found it if you're listening to us now. So.
Maybe they will do a marketing roadmap for you, public roadmap.
Ooh, a public roadmap for marketing. Yeah, so I can file all my issues about marketing on their GitHub board, and they'll close them as designed. So.
Done. Will not do. Will not address.
Hey everyone, Jonathan here. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the cloud consulting gurus at Foghorn for helping make the Cloud Pod possible. These folks truly get it. Cloud consulting experts since 2008, they are premier tier partners with AWS, Google Cloud Platform Silver, and Microsoft Azure partners. From multi-cloud to containers to moving full production workloads to the cloud under the tightest compliance, Foghorn's team of full-stack cloud engineers have been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and are ready to share their experience with you. If you're in the market for some talent to supplement your team, visit www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. Foghorn, the promise of cloud delivered.
Amazon has announced some new EFS features. These are the new IAM authorization and access point capability for EFS. Of course, when you build or migrate applications, we often need to share data across multiple compute nodes, and so that's where Amazon built EFS, which gives you a fully managed NFS capability. But it wasn't always fully integrated into either IAM or into the POSIX user system. So these two announcements actually fix both those problems. So the first one is integration with IAM. And so this allows you to basically define the permissions to the EFS mount at the IAM level, and then you can use a third, basically a open source utility called EFS utils that allowed the connection to use IAM authorization in transit encryption, and then it can either mount the EFS as a read-only, read-write, or a client root access to make that really simple. And that's all tied directly into IAM, which is super nice.
It's about time, really. NFS is typically secured with Kerberos or something like that, but they have had zero support for authentication. So I'm glad they've built something like this.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it as well. And then the second part of this is the support for POSIX user systems. This allows you to set up users and groups in Linux, and then allow that permission set to basically populate to the EFS access point. This can be used for things like container-based environments where devs build and deploy their own containers, data science applications that require read-only access to production data, and sharing a specific directory in your FS or your EFS with additional AWS accounts.
Yeah, that's really neat. In a way, it starts to look much more like an NFS-connected S3 bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sort of look like that. And the ability to share this across multiple Amazon accounts is really great. You can definitely see some of the interesting things they're doing around storage, which leads us into an article I got linked to from Twitter somewhere. Apparently back in December, TechTarget had an interview with Bill Voss, who's the Amazon VP of Technology over storage at AWS. And so they had asked him a few questions, and there's a couple interesting bullet points that came out of the interview that I thought we should talk about here at the show. The first one was that he basically said that they would like FSX to eventually support up to 35 different file systems. Today, of course, they only support CIFS and Lustre, but they mentioned things like GPFS might be an option in the future, or maybe something like ZFS or XFS or any of the other millions of file systems that you might want available to you. He did also kind of highlight that their viewpoint is that FSX is a single-tenant file system, where EFS is their elastic multi-tenant file system, and he talks about the reason for that is getting that microsecond latency on FSX to the CPU from the storage, which they feel is super important, which is what they built FSX for. And then, from there, he also mentioned in the article, there's several more features coming for EFS and SF3 and FSX. Then, interestingly, he mentioned there will be a new centralized storage management system coming sometime later this year that will allow you to have basically a single console to allow you to see your S3, FSX, and EFS and EBS volumes all in one place, which would be pretty nice to kind of centralize that, similar with security and SRE tooling, as well as the AWS backups feature.
It's old dog, new trick. Now, though, it's like, knew where to find everything, and now it's going to move on me.
I've noticed that they like to keep them in both places, and the new features are in the new console, but the old features are in the old console, and they don't always cross. So actually, it becomes a bit of a different problem where you actually have it in both places, but they don't have the same feature set.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, Amazon Simple Systems Manager, with all of your consoles in different places and menus that all basically do the same thing but differently.
I really need to look into FSX a little bit more. I mean, I assume that all these file systems are going to be network-connected file systems, because as soon as you connect it physically to a machine, you can't really manage that anymore because the machine has control, can write to the volumes directly. Are there really that many network-connected file systems?
Well, so he also mentioned in the article, that FSX could support NetApp ONTAP, for example. So I don't know if it's going to be their ability to make partners be able to offer storage solutions through FSX. I don't know if it's going to be like GPFS and ZFS and XFS and all those. But, it's really interesting what you potentially might be able to do. But I'm a little bit interested in the fact they call it a single tenant, because like CIFS, I don't feel a single tenant.
I read single tenant as in it's deployed for you in your account and you get to use it alone, whereas EFS is a managed service, which is a multi-tenant service on the Amazon side.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That might make more sense. It doesn't. This interview, Again, it's from Tech Target, and they didn't clarify that in their interview questions. But yeah, that definitely might be what he's trying to imply there, because that would definitely make more sense to me.
I much prefer the podcast interview style because whoever did the interview obviously spent 15, half an hour or something talking to the guy, and there's like 5 quotes in the whole article. Whereas on a podcast, at least you get to interact for a little bit longer and dig into some more details. And
yeah, which that story leads nicely into our next story, which is that Amazon Backup has gotten 3 new features. The first one being you can now back up an entire EC2 instance versus specifying each of the EBS volumes separately. You can now copy your backups to other AWS regions, either manually or automatically. And you can restore a single file from your EFS file system instead of the full file systems. So this is actually really nice. This is some of the limitations of some of the things we saw with backup when it was first announced over the summer. Was that it didn't really solve the multi-region needs. So I'm really glad to see that feature kind of come to fruition, where I can now copy those backups to other regions for DR BCP reasons.
Yeah, I shall shed a tear for my backup tool that I built, two or 3 years ago now.
Yes, rest in peace. We loved you so.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting, one of the things they do with the EC2 backup. So AWS Backup will protect all the EBS volumes attached to the instance, and it will then attach them to an AMI that stores all the parameters of the original EC2 instance, except for if you're using Elastic Inference accelerators or user data scripts. So like if you have certain drives in a certain configuration, you have certain ENI attachments, IP address assignments, public, private, all that gets kind of stored into the AMI that they create. And then when you go to restore the backup, you actually get all those metadata items, and you can actually either just accept them as is, or you can change them.
That's great. That's great for a DR solution.
Yeah, it's super nice.
That's not just backup. That's really pretty useful.
All of these backup capabilities are available to you in the console API and CLI. They do mention that if you are using RAID, software RAID on your operating system, you still need to flush your file system to disk before taking those backups. So if you're still doing that, terrible practice on AWS. That's something you'll need to keep in mind. But if you're not, this is a really great solution.
No mention of KMS in that article, though. So I'm kind of hoping it supports decrypting and re-encrypting volumes in other regions.
Well, you can copy keys between regions now. So I suspect that it may not be in this announcement, but it might be coming very soon. On the EFS item, the single file backup is actually really nice too, because it actually solves a pretty big DRBCP scenario where if you needed to recover an EFS volume or file in an EFS volume for a DRBCP practice, and that EFS was very large, that restoration could take quite a while, where restoring a single file could take maybe a few minutes, which really help out in an RTO, RPO scenario that's very short.
Yeah, or even just you just think about like your standard enterprise file system where you have tons of users all the time accidentally deleting files, calling the help desk, asking if they can get a file restored. It's like, oh, we could, but first we have to restore a couple 100 gig or terabytes worth of data to get your one file out.
Which is a really unfortunate scenario.
Yeah.
All these are available to you for free. Beyond, well, not free, but basically the AWS backup capability is available to you for no charge. But of course, the EBS storage fees continue to apply. EFS fees for the restored data will continue to be a portion, and then the cross-region backups, you will still pay for your cross-region data transfer bandwidth and new warm storage space. But those are just normal charges. There's nothing special for the Amazon backup. So if you're paying someone, a third-party vendor, for the same capability, you can definitely save quite a bit of money because you can get rid of that tool. And our final Amazon story, AWS is now offering you the NVIDIA Quadro virtual workstations in the EC2 G4 instances at no additional cost in workspaces. So customers who need the most powerful professional graphics can now use EC2 G4 instances to set up NVIDIA Quadro workstations. The G4 instances provide the latest generation T4 Tensor Core GPUs, AWS's custom second-gen Xeon scalable architecture, the Cascade Lake processors, up to 50 gigabits per second of networking, and 900 gigabytes of local NVMe storage. The use cases they highlighted for this are local image classification, object detection, recommendation engines, and automated speech recognition and language translation. And there's a quote here from Bob Pett, Senior Vice President of Professional Virtualization at NVIDIA. The new Quadro virtual workstation offering with Amazon EC2 G4 streamlines access and affordability for our customers who require the agility of professional graphics workstations in the cloud. In the digital economy of work anywhere, anytime, cloud access to Quadro on any device opens up new possibilities for designers, artists, and engineers working in industries like media and entertainment, manufacturing, AEC, and others.
I would think that it's pretty useful for people working in machine learning as well.
Yeah, I think maybe didn't mention machine learning specifically. I broke it down, but yes, definitely machine learning use cases.
I'm surprised they didn't lead with machine learning. I don't know many artists who are going to afford to have a Amazon virtual workstation.
I think that if you look at like making movies, pulling
like
and pushing
like
those
Pixar
huge
kind of thing, 3D
Yeah.
animation, that type of workstations needed for those people.
Didn't Azure do the same thing? Didn't they do a deal with somebody a few months ago? And we talked about, was it Disney or?
Yes, Disney movie studio, or was it Disney Movies or something like that, was doing a relationship with Azure as well.
So it's feature parity.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. No additional cost though. That's neat.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're already using the G4 TensorFlow based boxes, there's no additional cost for this capability, which is great. So, Azure has a new certification, and they're the first to get it. The new ISO or IEC 27701 privacy standard. Azure is the first major U.S. cloud provider to achieve certification as a data processor for the new international standard ISO 27701, which is Privacy Information Management System, or PIMS for short. The PIMS cert demonstrates that Azure provides a comprehensive set of management and operational controls that can help your organization demonstrate compliance with privacy laws and regulations. Being the first in the U.S. is a series of privacy firsts for Azure, including being the first to achieve compliance with EU modal clauses. Microsoft is also the first major cloud provider to voluntarily extend the core data privacy rights, including the GDPR, to customers around the world. PIMS, of course, is also an extension of the widely used ISO 27001 standard for information security management, making the implementation of PIMS privacy information management system a helpful compliance extension for many organizations that rely on ISO 27001 today. So this is a new addition to 27001, and Azure's the first.
Not me too.
Yeah, not me too.
Pretty cool.
Definitely, in this world now where GDPR and now CCPA, which is California, I just saw an article that Washington State is going to pass similar legislation as well. This is going to become a big deal for a lot of companies very quickly to be privacy compliant. And so seeing it extended to 27001, I think, is a great first step. There are still some complications around things like GLBA, which is the Graham-Leach-Beasley Act for mortgage and financial records, that kind of override some of this stuff that still has to be kind of worked out. But definitely there's a lot of changes coming to the world of privacy.
Most large organizations run 6 or even more monitoring tools. Each of them uses a mixture of data collection techniques from technology providers, open source communities, or custom integrations, and maintaining dozens of integrations across these tools can be a significant investment. Blue Medora introduces BindPlane, not another monitoring platform, but the industry's first monitoring integration as a service. BindPlane can gather data from over 150 technology data sources spanning your entire organization. Remove or reduce your reliance on expensive monitoring and SIM solutions by sending log data to Google Stackdriver, New Relic, or Azure Monitor. Check out the extensive list of integrations, all provided at no additional cost. Learn more and sign up for a free trial by visiting bluemedora.com/cloudpod. The link's available in our show notes, and as a bonus for CloudPod listeners, Blue Medora are offering Google Compute Platform credits to help get you started. BindPlane. Seamlessly stream hybrid cloud and on-premise metric and log data.
Moving on to Google. So Jonathan, we have to ask, who tipped you off from Google that risk chips were going to be a thing?
Cheater.
I will lead with saying I did say risk 5.
Did you technically say risk 5? I'm not sure you specified that.
I highlighted risk 5 as a partner that Google have been working with. So I don't know. I'll happily take the point because I'm super happy to see risk chips on Google Cloud. Those IBM Power CPUs are pretty awesome.
Yeah, IBM Power Systems are now available to you on the Google Cloud as part of their cloud solution. Customers can run IBM Power Systems whether they're using AIX, IBM I, or Linux on IBM Power. And then IBM Power Systems on GCP offer many benefits, including integrated billing, private API access, integrated customer support, and rapid deployment. So I think this is a very typical partnership relationship that Google has now done with IBM, similar to what they did with NetApp and with VMware and others, where they're actually kind of like reselling the product through the console. They're providing combined support offerings, etc. But yes, technically an IBM Power 9 series chip is a RISC-based chip. So Jonathan, you were tipped off, I think.
I wish.
These are actually pretty cool. I don't know how much you guys have done with Power, But Macintosh, before they made the Intel switch, used to be PowerPC based.
Yep.
And then we were actually looking at this at a company that was running Oracle, because you could actually run it on top of the IBM Power systems, and you actually got way better performance. This is 8 or 9 years ago. I mean, they were talking about like 3 gigahertz performance when Intel was still in like 1.5, 1.6 gigahertz. So you could get way more performance for way less processor cores and save a bunch of money on your licensing. And so we were really heavily looking at this as an option for our Oracle databases, but we ended up not pulling the trigger on it because we were a little concerned about Oracle getting angry, which everyone does, and so we didn't do that. But yeah, they're pretty neat chips, and the POC we did was pretty awesome. I was actually really impressed with what they could do with this technology.
I think one of the reasons the IBM Power chips have the edge over x86 chips is because they actually have a hypervisor built in to the CPUs, and so similar to, I guess, what AWS is doing with the Nitro system, where they've turned a lot of their management systems into hardware. The Power platform already includes a lightweight hypervisor on chip already, so it kind of reduces some of the virtualization overheads.
Very nice.
Do you think that the fact that GCP is offering this signals that Google doesn't see IBM's cloud as a competitor?
I'm not really sure. I was wondering about that too as I was writing up the show notes for this. I feel like this is a way for Google and IBM to play nice a little bit, and I'm sure they have customers that are IBM customers who are making the move to GCP, and they're demanding this as well. And this is a way for IBM to not really lose a lot of face, because it's just an integration into the GCP cloud. It's not like GCP isn't saying they're going to put Power PCs in their data center, right? I think the way that these partnership agreements work is that you put your equipment into Equinix, and then you cross-connect it to the Google Cloud, and then they resell it through the partner portal. Mm-hmm. So it's not really a complete hey, our cloud doesn't work. It's just maybe they're going to position it as this is an extension of our cloud that we've attached to GCP, just like Oracle is an extension of Azure's cloud, so you can use Oracle databases and Oracle technology with your Azure footprint.
Yeah, it'd be curious to see if IBM ever gets a foothold in the space. Obviously they're spending a lot of resources to.
What did IBM call? Didn't they? They had a quote last year about that this it was just the first inning of cloud, and they were going to win the next couple innings. I don't know if this is the right direction for that.
Yeah. I
don't remember that quote was going. It was around the Red Hat acquisition timeframe. I forget exactly the quote, but there was a lot of cloud is in its infancy, and these other companies have won the first stage, but we're going to win the war. And it was like, I'm not so sure.
I mean, maybe that Google think that the Power systems are the future for machine learning.
Yeah, they definitely could give you more performance in that space, so it's very possible.
Yeah. Watch the space, I guess. But I'll take the point for the wrist chips in GCP. And
yes, I found the quote. It was in episode 11 with Corey. IBM CEO says that they will be number 1 in cloud chapter 2.
There you go. Really? It's not going to be next gen? I thought for sure chapter 2 would be next gen.
Why did Oracle partner with Azure? They should have partnered with IBM. That would be, soft layer cloud connects to Oracle. There you go. Then you get next gen cloud. Google has released a couple of new network performance benchmarking tools. These are the PerfKit Benchmarker, which is an open source tool created inside Google that makes network performance benchmarking faster and easier by automating network setup, provisioning of VMs for the tests, and the test runs themselves. They also released a new benchmarking methodology for using PerfKit Benchmarker continuously and consistently. There are several network benchmarking tests available today, including inter-region, inter-zone, and inter-zone network performance tests. And this supports on-premises to cloud and cross-cloud performance benchmarks. I assume that Google has built this tool so they can show how superior their network is to AWS or other cloud providers, which is a shrewd move.
Yeah, I bet it also helps a lot when people are complaining about network performance when they're doing migrations, that you can pretty easily prove that the network isn't the problem.
But I mean, you're going to have to pay for this out of your own pocket. I mean, the faster you pump data through the network, the faster you spend dollars. So
that's true. Your cross-region fees rack up pretty quick.
It's like a one-armed bandit of the Google Cloud.
Well, I just go run this tool on AWS and then be shocked at your bill. That's why you should come to Google instead. It's a great play. Well done, Google. Google is apparently helping retailers win the digital race. They're apparently expanding their Retail Acceleration Program in 2020. The Retail Acceleration Program is a service offering that helps retailers optimize their websites, build a unified view of customer data, and drive increased foot traffic to their stores. There's a couple of pieces of this, including a new expanded customer reliability engineering team, which is a white glove service that helps retailers plan and execute flawlessly during their peak shopping seasons, and a new Google Cloud search for the retail component, which will become later in 2020, powered by Google Search. The retail search capability will have high-quality product search results for their websites and mobile apps, and a new Google Cloud one-to-one engagement for retail and blueprint and best practices guide on how to build these types of data-driven solutions effectively and with less upfront costs. And Google has also released a new buy optimization and forecasting service to allow retailers to plan inventory and manage their supply chains to deliver the right products to the right channels at the right time.
Wow, it sounds like they're moving into the Amazon Marketplace kind of space.
Well, I think this is really more about them saying, well, you really trust Amazon to have your retail business, or do you want to go to Azure, or do you want to go to us? And we think we're providing you better high-value tools and machine learning capabilities than Azure is to help you with your retail business. So I see what their play is here. Makes sense. And it's definitely one of those big areas that retailers in particular struggle to give AWS money as they see it as a competitor.
Yep. Now I think it's clear if you're going to go after a vertical and you're Google, this is the vertical to go after.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody who doesn't want to go with AWS, it seems like a pretty good set.
Google broke out the old wallet this week and purchased AppSheet to help businesses create and extend applications without coding. AppSheet, of course, is one of the leading no-code application development platforms out there, and is used by a number of enterprises across a variety of industries. The acquisition will help enterprises empower millions of citizen developers to more easily create and extend applications without the need for professional coding skills.
Have you seen one of those app sheets?
I did look at some videos on YouTube, and I was sort of horrified.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather pay an engineer to build a piece of software for me than try and use a spreadsheet to design all the functionality of an app.
And sometimes you just need a really simple database. I think we talked about it in the previous episode about FileMaker Pro, and I think actually I was talking to someone at work today about HyperCard, which was an Apple thing way back in the day, which dates me dramatically. But these kind of visual GUI things that you can kind of put a workflow on top of, and so what I was seeing in some of my research on this, like there's another competitor of theirs that provides that same database type of table thing. It looks like Excel, and then it has a web form builder, or you can build forms to input data into it. And at the end of the day, it really reminded me a lot of Google Sheets.
Once you get into complex logic, then it's just easier to. It's even easier sometimes to learn how to code.
There's a couple of interesting quotes here. According to the Forrester Wave, AppSheet has the most aggressive strategy and roadmap for empowering business people as developers. The platform has the highest score possible in the commercial model criterion, and it shows in a stellar experience along with strong features for mobile app development, data design, application scaling, and documentation generation. So that's interesting that it was apparently the leader in the space until Google and Azure and AWS release their own features, their own capabilities. And then they say here that AppSheet complements the Google Cloud strategy to reimagine the application development space with a platform that helps enterprises innovate with a no-code development workflow, automation, application integration, and API management as they modernize their business processes in the cloud, which kind of made me think that maybe that's what Amplify is supposed to be, or the beginning of what Amplify is going to be. Because Amplify does a lot of the similar things, API management, mobile applications, integration, workflow automation. That's all part of Amplify, and I can see how that might get more no-code type features on AWS in the future as well. So very, very interesting. There's definitely a lot of excitement when this announcement got made. Also, people who are not excited were very vocal.
Yes, it was.
I'm not a big fan of it either, but I like the idea and concept, but I feel like it's, if you're limited in the tool set, then none of these things are really differentiators, and they're all very common. So we will see. All right, Peter, you want to take us to the lightning round?
All right, introducing workload share as an AWS well-architected tool.
I'm so glad I don't have to explain to our TAM for the 180 accounts that our VPC design is standardized and templated. And answer the exact same security and IAM questions every time. So now I can do it one time, and I can share that out to all of my 180 accounts, and then when they do the well-architected reviews with our engineering teams, they can focus on the part that matters to those engineering teams. So I for one, am super ecstatic about this one. I'm sure you are too, Peter, because I know you guys do a lot of these well-architected reviews as part of your certification and partner relationship.
We do. Unfortunately for us, a lot of them are, obviously they're per customer, so we won't be able to get as much value as you get out of it, but we will for our larger customers for sure.
Yeah, basically any of your customers who are doing multi-account strategy will benefit. Yeah.
Amazon SQS now supports 1-minute CloudWatch metrics in all commercial regions.
Don't even go there. Yeah, Amazon finding new and faster ways to spend your money every day.
Yeah. AWS Transfer for SFTP supports VPC security groups and elastic IP addresses.
So you can now provision IP addresses for your SFTP and then not attach them, and then you can spend even more money on your overpriced SFTP solution.
Dude, SFTP and elastic IPs just go so well together, though. I'm so happy.
It does, especially because of people caching their signatures.
Yeah, for sure. And that actually solves a couple of use cases for that signature problem. I do think I had some alphabet soup earlier that had SFTP, EIP as the letters
just lined up
together. Yeah, just lined right up there. It made perfect sense. Yeah.
Amazon Cognito now supports CloudWatch usage metrics.
Thank God, I can now actually see how many users are actually logging into my system with Cognito. Like, maybe you want to know how many users you have per day. It's nice that you can finally get that data.
You know, they've actually had that feature around for a very long time, but it's been incognito.
Ah! Pretty good. AWS Marketplace offers new pricing options for container-based software.
Oh, this is either the worst thing ever or amazing. I can't decide. But maybe the spot market will help me out in the future. So we'll see.
I put all my effort into the last one. I got nothing now.
Yeah, you're on the oxygen machine still, on the bench taking a break, getting your hamstring stretched out. Amazon EC2 spot instances can now be stopped and started, similar to on-demand instances.
This is so much better than the Hibernate thing they came up with earlier in the summer, and everyone laughed at them.
This is the beginning of the end for regular on-demand pricing for sure, isn't it? Because you can launch a workload and say, I only want to run this when it costs 3 cents an hour, and it runs when it costs 3 cents an hour, and it shuts down when it doesn't. It's
Ooh, so it's stop. You can have it stop instead of terminating.
Yes, you stop it. And so it's similar to what they were doing with the Hibernate. So if your instance supported Hibernate, you could hibernate it when the spot market price went up. But the problem was, we talked about in the Hibernate thing, was that the memory limitation was like you couldn't do more than 16 or 32 gigs of memory.
The Windows Hibernate thing, yeah.
So this is actually even better, because now I can just stop the instance. I stop paying for it other than the EBS storage, and then when the price is the right place, it comes back online exactly as it was, other than it rebooted.
Right. Perfect.
So that's really great. It almost was a main show topic, but I thought it was better here.
AWS device. Did everyone talk about that one yet? Sorry.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay,
yeah, we're good.
AWS Device Farm announces desktop browser testing using Selenium.
This is what I was promised with Device Farm 5 years ago, that it would be able to do testing beyond mobile devices. So thank goodness they finally delivered.
Just in time for all the browsers to converge on the Chromium platform. That's fantastic.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for that. Yes, we appreciate it. It is. I was looking at some of the pricing of this because, what's the weird company name that does Selenium test running for you? Sauce Labs. So this is actually for like the first 430 minutes a month. It's significantly cheaper than Sauce Labs, and after that, you kind of get into a different pricing tier, and Sauce Labs are a little more attractive. But the flexibility of being able to do this combined with your mobile testing and all of that, I don't know. I think there's advantages, and I suspect that you will see that this gets a lot of adoption for testing teams.
Yeah, I can only imagine the price is going to go one direction, and that would be down. Amazon Workspaces Migrate enables migration to the Windows 10 desktop experience, and the new Workspaces streaming protocol is in beta.
I'm so glad I don't have to tell my users anymore, hey, you want to move to Windows 10, we have to destroy your entire desktop experience and give you a new one. That's finally. Yeah. But the other part of this, the Workspaces streaming protocol is actually kind of cool. I didn't realize, if you've ever dealt with PCO over IP, for those dumb terminals from like Wise and those companies to connect to VDI, PCO over IP is a little bit flaky at times. So this new Workspaces streaming protocol is much lighter weight and much faster. This is now in beta, so that's actually pretty cool. So a much faster, much better PCO IP solution that makes it easier to do high graphic work. Nice.
I guess it works well with their Quadro workspaces, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Oh yeah, maybe that's why it came out.
I'm not sure. I'd be happy about the migration to the Windows 10 desktop experience. It's not. I hate the Windows 10 desktop experience.
I mean, it's better than the Windows 8 desktop experience.
We don't talk about Windows 8.
or the Vista, or the Me, or the Bob. Like, we don't have any of those. I know.
Or Highlander 2.
Dude, I lived through all of them, and Windows 8 is the reason I bought a Mac.
Yeah. I was a Mac guy very early on in my career. Or actually, when I was a kid, my very first computer was a Mac SE. We had a big Radius screen attached to it. My parents did newsletters on PageMaker, Aldus PageMaker back in the day. And then we had Macs until the Mac clones, and then they killed Mac clones, and my dad was like, "Screw this," and we switched to Windows 95. Then I did Windows until about 2007 or so, and yeah, it was about Windows 8 time too. I was like, I'm gonna go back to Mac. So much easier. and at that point they had Intel finally, and you had a real native Unix experience, which was super nice versus the Cinnamon experience of Windows.
Yep. All right. I gotta say, trying to remember who the winner was. He went incognito.
Excellent.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Clever wordplay wins it every time.
Yes.
Every time. I'm a sucker for those.
You are. I gotta work on those. All right. Well, that is it for the Cloud Pod this week. Thank you once again for joining us. Anything going on that you guys want to talk about, or say goodnight?
Is there something going on that you're reminding me to talk about that I've forgotten to talk about?
No, I don't know. It was a weird transition. I'm off of my games, and
No, I like it. We should be ready to have responded to that. I take responsibility. I'm going to do better next week. Bring something to the table.
When's the next AWS East Bay meetup?
It'll be in February, actually, out in the East Bay of San Francisco. I don't have a date quite locked down for it. We're trying to see if Viva is going to host February or not. But I will probably have that by next week, so I'll let you guys know.
Cool.
Either we're hosting, or they're hosting, or I have a connection out at Workday. Maybe they're going to host. We'll see.
Are we going to try and get a guest speaker in again, or?
We would love to get guest speakers. We always love guest speakers. So we'll see what we can do. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Well, have a great night. We will see you next week on the Cloud Pod.
Good night.
See ya.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting and Blue Medora. Check out our website, the home of the Cloud Pod, where you can join our newsletter, Slack team, send feedback, or ask questions at thecloudpod.net, or tweet us at #thecloudpod. Performance art is making the cloud network performance benchmarking faster and easier. Actually, I'm going to try that again. Google is releasing a new tool to make cloud network performance benchmarking faster and easier. There's two new tools here, include investing in a benchmarking tool. Ugh, I just can't get through this. I apologize, Jonathan.
Once more with feeling.
Google has released a couple of new network performance benchmarking tools to make it faster and easier to benchmark the network between your private cloud, the cloud zone, and between your networks. Okay, now you're laughing.
A cloud network performance benchmarking tool which benchmarks the performance of cloud networks.
Of cloud networks. There you go. That's what it is.
At least it's named well.
Does exactly what it says on the can.
Yeah.
It does. It's hard to fluff it up. Okay, let me try one more time. One more time. Without you laughing, if we can help it.